Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am so glad you're here today because this is gonna be a good one. It's that time of year again, guys. The wind is getting colder, the leaves are getting crunchier, and the games are getting cozier because, oh yeah, it's fall. If you've been keeping up with Nintendo Switch gaming news in any capacity this past year, there's a good chance you've heard of Bear and Breakfast, a game described to be, quote, a laid-back management adventure game where you build and run a bed and breakfast, but you're a bear. Though first released earlier this year on July 28, 2022 for Microsoft Windows, Switch users were in for a longer wait, as the game was delayed before finally being released on the Nintendo Switch eShop on September 15th. As a frequenter of the indie, cozy gaming community online, I think I speak for a lot of us when I say that this Switch release was highly anticipated. Bear and Breakfast seemed like such an amazing game for the Switch, and I was so excited to finally get a chance to play it, and, of course, share my experience with you all. This is my spoiler-free review and overall thoughts of Bear and Breakfast. The premise of Bear and Breakfast is simple, and the official game website wraps it up quite nicely in their description, where they say, build and run a bed and breakfast in the woods. But you're a bear. Tourists are flooding in, your decoration senses are tingling, and the woods are making a kooky noise. The game's story finds main character and titular bear himself, Hank, and his two close friends and housemates, Annie the bear dog and Will the little bird, leaving home on an adventure to fetch Hank's mom, Margaret, some alligator weed. Naturally, the gang wanders much further than their intended destination and stumble upon a robotic shark who presents a hilariously unappealing business opportunity to open a bed and breakfast and bring humans back to the forest. The gang agrees to accept the challenge, and such begins the whirlwind journey of getting started to do just that. And, yeah. The gang does disappear for a few days, not hours, from home, only to be met with Hank's mom making her case for winning the award of most understanding mom of all time, because after only a decidedly light scolding, does she welcome them back into her arms and send them back on their way to build a bed and breakfast empire. I've gotta give her an A+ for supporting her son and his friends' wild dreams, though. Without her, this little story would never have come to be. With the support of Hank's mom behind them, Hank and crew set out to make a name for themselves in the region, building not only bed and breakfasts, but also quite a few relationships with the colorful cast of characters they meet along the way. One of my favorite parts of Bear and Breakfast is getting to meet all of the charming characters. Once I had gotten to know the main group with Hank, Annie, and Will, I really thought I had met the best ones of all. And arguably that was true, because of course the main characters get some extra care in the characterization and design, but I was pleasantly surprised to continuously meet a diverse group of personalities at every step of the way, who really retained the game's endearing tone, whilst adding pops of nuance with playfully snarky or strong characters, for example. I absolutely love the integration of the art cards and bios provided for each new character at a central moment in your interactions with them, to give you a better idea of who they are and what role they play in your growing community. There are always clever choices for certain roles and animal combinations to maximize the comedic or cuteness potential, and it makes for a wonderfully light atmosphere, even in the midst of somewhat spooky or darker plotlines throughout the story. In addition, the pre-existing connections between characters that you learn about make the world feel even more real, as these landscapes have a history and reputation that you are actively taking into account as you grow. Although relatively minor, the choice to make small dialogue decisions when Hank is interacting with his neighbors, even when they are human and cannot understand your quote-unquote bear noises, adds an extra layer of agency and choice in a game already founded on the goal of creation. This also excels as a means to further characterize Hank, your endlessly lovable and sometimes absent-minded protagonist. It really is the little things that can win you over, isn't it? For a game that many hailed as the next best cozy title, I knew that the atmosphere and environment of Bear and Breakfast was going to be crucial. There's a certain comfy factor in many of the cozy gaming community's favorite games, such as Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley, that is hard to put into words, but makes all the difference in the world in creating an effortlessly addictive game. With that in mind, I was super curious to see what Bear and Breakfast had in store for the eyes and the ears. On a level of sound design, I think the little crunchy dirt and grass steps that you hear underneath Hank's paws are absolutely spot on. As you traverse through your environments, you do hear a good deal of the nature sounds one would want and expect, and for me, it did add a degree of coziness that I was really hoping for. Moreover, the differences in speech bubble sounds between characters and dialogue was a thoughtful touch, as sweet characters like Hank might have a light bubble sound, whereas a more morally ambiguous character has a more distorted, grumbly sounding cue. In terms of music, I think Bear and Breakfast, while different from titles such as Animal Crossing, which constantly provide a sort of light, upbeat, and pleasing background, excels in providing a diverse catalog which reflects the equally varied content of the story. Yes, you are going to get a nice acoustic track which feels perfectly natural and soothing for the forest, but you're also going to get some spookier and more ominous tracks which play at night and add just a slight sense of unease and mystery, which is actually perfect for the story. As exemplified in the very beginning of the game, where Hank has what seems to be a nightmare where a monster-like figure speaks to him, there is in fact a darker shade to this game that begs you to wonder just what has been creeping around at night in the forest with no humans. Therefore, the very sort of in-between feeling of the soundtrack, while not everybody's cup of tea, is spot on in complementing the story. I don't love every single song, but it's because some of them make me feel on edge, and I think that's exactly what they're supposed to do. In terms of atmosphere, Bear and Breakfast isn't as relaxed as Animal Crossing, but it feels spot on for the setting of the forest and unexplored surrounding areas. There's always a feeling of curiosity and adventure to discover the unknown and continue pressing forward, at a reasonable pace of course, and I believe that the adorable art style has a lot to do with this. From the mere animation of Hank walking around alone, all bouncy and hopeful, to the charmingly drawn, gloating screen cards shown when traveling between areas, the quiet beauty of the world is constantly shown to you. The art doesn't hit you over the head with breathtaking sights, but it sits at your side and shows you a pleasing and slowly unraveling landscape that always leaves you wanting more. In terms of actual gameplay, Bear and Breakfast is pretty straightforward. Control-wise, I admittedly did get confused in the beginning trying to figure out how to access the mini tutorial screens as they popped up, but eventually learned that pressing the Y button is usually your saving grace, as it helps you click around the mini menus and move the highlighted area around to your desired area of interest. I think this was probably just a me problem in having just played Breath of the Wild on Switch that very same day and being used to those real-time combat controls. So while I doubt the majority of you watching would have those same issues, I did still think it was worth mentioning. Thankfully, once I was able to access those tutorial menus, most basic functions of construction, decoration, and editing are quite easy to understand. They just take a little getting used to over time. The great thing is though, you will have the time for trial and error, so please feel free to take it slow at the beginning and learn at your leisure. And speaking of time, you have the ability to sleep through the nights as well if you find that the story is moving a little too slowly for your liking, which you might, particularly after the beginning. But I found that as time went on, I needed and just really wanted the nighttime to build and explore. There are some weird issues with pacing where I felt the need to work at nighttime, but not the entire nighttime, and was just waiting around for the next day to come but had missed the chance to sleep, so it might take you a little while to get into the rhythm of it. As other gaming publications have pointed out, one of the issues with the game is rooted in its lack of overall varied gameplay, as there's only so much material gathering, building, and hosting you can do before it becomes just a bit monotonous, which is sometimes exacerbated by the storyline, which unfolds slowly and can be full of gaps in the action. I found that a lot of the story elements are heavily front-loaded towards the beginning stages and tutorial chapters of the game, leaving you wanting more throughout the later stages that keep you busy working with little to no interaction with plot elements or other main characters. I think the game could definitely benefit from having some extra tasks or mini-games to complete throughout the in-game day. So maybe this could be something that the developers could add in on potential updates or even in a hypothetical sequel. Furthermore, I think a bit more distribution of the main story across each portion of the gameplay would really help to keep players more engaged and interested, as it is admittedly easy to get lost in the whir of grinding and forget that besides being a management game, Bear and Breakfast is somewhat of an adventure story game as well. This is a minor complaint, I know, but I feel it's one that other story and dialogue-loving gamers would also relate to. Now, having finally tried Bear and Breakfast, you're probably wondering, what do I think? Would I recommend it to you? I think that Bear and Breakfast shines by creating for players a unique and creative play experience that is charming from start to end. I really enjoyed playing management-style games online as a kid, and this was really a wonderful return to the genre with fresh eyes and a beautiful new coat of paint. Particularly around this time of year, when Northern Hemisphere players are getting ready for the colder months and all of the coziness that comes with gaming indoors, I think Bear and Breakfast is a great addition to any casual gamer's collection to wind down on those chilly nights. If you're looking for something as comprehensive as Stardew Valley, with hundreds of hours of gaming potential and endless in-game aspects to explore this fall, I'm not sure if Bear and Breakfast is right for you. But if you're looking for something new to curl up with this season and a new, furry protagonist to fall in love with, then Bear and Breakfast might just be the right choice for you. If that someone is you, you can download Bear and Breakfast for $19.99 on the Nintendo Switch eShop. If you made it to the end of this video, I'd like to give you a huge thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this review as much as I enjoyed making it, because I really had a lot of fun with this one. For more game reviews and other cozy gaming content, please consider sticking around. I'd love to have you here. Until the next one, take care and happy fall. Bye!